Hello, and welcome back to Brentford Fan TV. I'm Ben.
And I'm Freddie, and today we are looking at Brentford players' prices in FPL. And we're just going to get straight in and start off with Mark Flecken, Brentford's number one keeper. And I think Flecken's a very good pick. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he could be, especially with that 4.5 price
Yeah,
point.
yeah, he's very cheap. I don't think there's any 4 million goalkeepers who start for any teams. So getting Flecken, who's 4.5 million, who starts for Brentford, is very good. I think Flecken was the fourth highest scoring goalkeeper last season in FPL because he got assists and lots of save points every now and then. And he had a few man of the match performances as well towards the end of last season. And so if he can perform last season's end of season form into this season, then he could get a lot of points, a lot of bonus points. And I think that's also proved by the general player base with his 13.3%
Yeah,
selected by the general player base.
not quite a differential because that's below 10%,
Right. Yeah.
but still a quite a underused option. So
Yeah, I think Flecken could be a good player, and I think he could be a bit of a differential. I know 13% is quite a lot, but I think he could be a good differential. And he's arguably one of the best Brentford players to have this year in FPL.
yeah, and then we move on to our backup keeper Vladimarson, who probably not the best to use because he won't get game time over Flecken, will he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's only 4 mil, so, and he's the number 2, so he probably won't get any game time. But I would say that last season, Flecken, he did miss a few games due to illness.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have one goalkeeper that starts, one goalkeeper that doesn't really play, but he's the backup to the starting goalkeeper that you play, Valdemarson would be good because he's 4 million, and Flecken last season did miss a few games. But
Yeah.
general player based, you're not really going to select Valdemarson.
Yeah, and he's only 0.8% selected, and that's probably people putting him on the bench because he's quite cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and moving on to the defence, going to start with Rico Henry, who I feel like is the player. If I were to pick a Brentford defender, I'd be most likely to pick Rico Henry because of his attacking threat of being a fullback, putting in loads of crosses from the left, and he has a very good 4.5 price mill for the player that he is. Any
Yeah.
other things?
Yeah, I think, he's definitely our best defender for me, Rico Henry, because of his threat down the left hand side, especially when we play the back five. He gets up even more. He's basically a winger. But yeah, even in the back four, he gets up and down a lot. And at the start of last season, when he was fit, he actually got quite a few points at the start of last FPL season.
Yeah, he did.
But he's definitely one of our better defenders in FPL. Next, one of the worst ones, I'd say, is Aaron Hickey. That's not his fault. That's just that he's injured or has been injured.
Yeah.
And he should be back from injury, but he wasn't in the pre-season game yesterday against Wimbledon, so I'm not really sure what's happening with Hickey.
No.
But I don't think Hickey has the goal threat or the assist threat as Rico Henry, so he's also 4.5 million, but I wouldn't go for Hickey.
Yeah, and then with the centre backs, our most selected defender is actually Ben Mee.
Yeah, I think that's a bit surprising, seeing as he's injured. The game doesn't say he's injured, but he is injured. He got injured towards the end of last season, and it was a big injury. And who's to say he'll start for us? Because when we're playing the back four, I think Pinnock and Collins would start, and Ben Mee's the third choice, and so he shouldn't really have that 1.3% selected. And I feel like the FPL player base that users are living in the past from 2 seasons ago, where he was one of the highest scoring defenders that season, where we nearly got Europe.
Yeah, I also don't think he'll start with our defending centre back options being Collins and Pinnock really good, and like even Aya, who's will probably play when we play a back five, but I think Ben Mee's not as good as he once was. Even he has scored goals in the past and does have a good goal threat for a centre back. I just don't think he'll get enough game time to make it a viable option.
Yeah, I think I've actually seen he's played like 50 games for us and he has 5 goals, and so he's getting a goal every 10 games, which is really good for a defender.
Yeah.
And so he is a really good goal threat, but he probably just won't get the game time to capitalise on the goal threat. But next up, Ethan Pinnock. I'd say he's probably our best option from centre backs.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know, he's He's 4.5 million again, only 0.5% selected, and he's very tall. He's 6'5". He's got that goal threat, and I think he's a very underrated player. But I do see that he's one of those players who's not really going to get that many points based off past seasons, and so there's definitely better options from Brentford defenders and other teams over Pinnock.
Yeah, there is. Next we've got most likely centre back partner Collins.
Yeah.
Is again 4.5 mil, and I wouldn't see him as the best option because he's not really going to attack much.
Yeah.
Not score many goals.
I think Collins, not a great option again. It's like he's based on last season, we didn't keep many clean sheets. Collins made a few mistakes that led to goals, and so in terms of FPL, he's not the best pick, and so he's probably not worth investing in. But next term, Aya, I think Aya could be an interesting one.
Yeah, it could be a good option because he has played right back when we play a back four, and he has played quite well there. It's just I feel like if Hickey's fit, he'll play there over him every day.
Yeah, but it's possible if Hickey's not fit for the start of the season, Aya could start at right back for us in a back four, because that setup's then kind of as a back three in possession, and Rico Henry gets higher up the pitch, but Aya would still get up the pitch as the right back, and so I think Aya could be a bit of a differential for the start of the season, so long as say Hickey is still injured and then he gets his spot in the 11.
Yeah, and the rest of the defenders, we're not really going to talk too much about them in detail, just because they're not really viable options. They won't start often. No, they won't start and probably won't get subbed on too much.
Yeah, that's Roslev Zenka and Kim Ji-soo. I mean, I would say Roslev, he's also 4.5 million and he's not really the starter.
Yeah.
If he was 4 million, he could have been a bit of a bench option.
Yeah.
But, we'd stay away from the rest of the defenders. Now for the midfielders. First up, Brian Mbeumo, 8.2% selected at 8 million, and he's in my team. What about you?
He's in mine as well. He's probably our best goal threat of the entire team, and he scored goals, got assists. He's proven he can do it in the past, and I think he'll do more.
Yeah. I think he could be really exciting for next season. He has the 8.2% selected, so the general player base is also agreeing with us that, 8.2% is not huge, but I think it's good enough to be recognised.
Yeah, it is.
And I think he'll be a great player for us in FPL, and he could get lots of points. And I think 7 mil is also a good price, because lots of other midfielders this year are really expensive, with like Salah, Palmer, Saka's, Erdegaard's. And so he's a cheaper option, and he could be a great option. But next up, Matthias Jensen.
He may not be as good as Brian Mbeumo, as he's a midfielder who doesn't really... a midfielder rather than a winger. But as he's on set pieces, he has the chance to get goals and assists more than most players would.
Yeah. So Jensen's 5.5 million and only 0.3% selected. But I do think Jensen is a starter for us. And so if you want a 5.5 million midfielder who's starting probably every game, he could be your player. And I think last season he started the season really well with like 4 goals in his first 10 games. And so he does have that goal threat. Of course, I think his performances tailed off towards the end of last season. But Jensen is potentially a good move. But I'd say another potentially good move, Kevin Schade. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he is, because although he didn't really play much games last season because of injuries, in the few games he played, he got like goals and assists. So I think he can be a good option to get those returns. Yeah,
so Kevin Schade is 5.5 million, and I think he could be a good option. However, he's a bench player for Brentford, really. It's the starting 11 next season most likely will have in the attack Mbeumo, Thiago, Wissa. But if Schade is starting games, I think Schade is a great option. But also, at the end of last season, off the bench, Schade got a goal against Sheffield United. He got an assist against Sheffield United and a goal against Luton. And so his goal threat's still there. The pace is still there. And so Schade could potentially be a good option. But
he could even start.
Yeah, especially if he starts.
Yeah. Next we've got Damsgaard, who is cheaper than the other midfielders we talked about at 5 mil, and I feel like he could again be a viable option.
Yeah, I think it really depends on his game time because last season he had a good run towards the end of the season, a good run of starting games, and he had a disallowed goal that should have been a goal, but he did get assists in there, and I think Damsgaard ended the season really well. To be honest,
yeah.
he was just unfortunate in the last few games. He just wasn't starting, and he was being benched, and so if he continues to be benched next season, Damsgaard isn't really a great option.
Yeah.
But I think he has the goal threat, and I think he has the assist threat if he gets the game time, of course.
And he could even be on set pieces. He scored that one in the Euros quite a few years back now, but
yeah,
he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, next on our list is Josh Da Silva. He's 5 million. He's injured. He'll be back from injury around Christmas, so I think he's done his ACL again. So don't buy Josh Da Silva until maybe later in the season.
Then we got our CDMs, Janelt, Norgard, and Onyeka, and I don't think they're viable because CDMs in FPL don't really get much chance for points because they're mostly sitting back, holding the defence. And also, Norgard is our only starting CDM. Janelt would start in the midfield, so he's more viable than the others.
Yeah, I think, well, last season Janelt only got 1 goal, and that was in the last game of the season, so he has very little goal threat. He gets few assists. Norgard gets a few goals from set pieces, but really isn't a great option either. And Onyeka isn't really close to the starting 11, so I wouldn't go for them as well. But I do think a good option to get for 4.5 million is Yehor Yarmouk.
Yeah.
I think he's maybe 3% selected, which is pretty good, but it's obviously because he's cheap. But last season, he was our most subbed on player. Obviously, he might not get as much game time this season if players aren't as injured, which could make him a worse FPL option. But if he gets as many substitute appearances as last season, he could be a good option for a bench player.
Yeah, he could be. One final midfielder I'm going to talk about is Lewis Potter, who, depending on game time, could be a good option because he's a very good attacking player and he scored a few this season.
Yeah.
It is entirely dependent on his game time.
Yeah, I think Lewis Potter, he's a really good player. He's 5 million. In his first season with us, he was really unfortunate. He was injured most of the season. He actually had a good run of games last season. He played a lot of games and he got a couple of goals last season and he finally found his shooting boots, although his finishing often isn't that good. But last season, he didn't get many chances in attack because he played wing back so often due to our injuries.
Yeah.
So I think Lewis Potter could be a good option, but obviously he won't get enough game time, and so he's really not a great option.
And finally, we've got the forwards, starting with our most expensive player, Ivan Toney, at 7.5 million, and not really sure what's happening with him this season in the transfer window.
Yeah, it's not really sure what's happening, as we said, because the club want to sell him because he's not renewing his contract, and so by the time of game week 1, Toney might not even be a Brentford player anymore, and he could be a good option for another team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really difficult because he's selected by 12% of players, but would he start over Thiago? I really don't know. And so for now, I'd just say avoid Ivan Toney until we solidly know what's happening with him.
Yeah.
Would he be starting? Is he being sold?
Yeah, and even though it seems unlikely, he could even leave the Premier League for another team.
Yeah, I saw he was linked to Atletico Madrid recently.
Yeah, so
but yeah,
I wouldn't get him for now. But
I think
if he moves to somewhere like Tottenham, that might be he might be a good option.
There's no doubt he's got ability and would get FPL points, but for now, I'd say avoid him just because it's so uncertain what is happening with him.
Yeah.
But next up, Igor Thiago. I'll admit Igor Thiago is in my team.
Yeah, he's in mine as well.
He's a great price at 6 million. Yesterday was our first game of pre-season. He got a brace in 45 minutes, and I'm really excited by him. I think he's got great all-round game and great finishing, and that's just what you need for FPL.
Yeah, the only downside is it might take him a little bit of time to warm up to the Premier League, but once he's warmed up, he's going to score loads of goals.
Yeah, I think Thiago will be a great player for us. It's just a matter of, are there other strikers you want to start over him? But he's made my team.
Yeah, he's starting in mine.
And then finally, Jan Wisser. He's 6 million and selected by 2.5% of players, which is higher than most Brentford players. But I don't know if I would go for Wissa, because there's so many better options in midfield from other teams, and even he's a forward.
He's a forward, even though he plays winger.
Yeah, he's a forward. And so when he does play out on the left, which he probably will do a lot of this season because Thiago's in and Tony might even still be with us. He just doesn't get many goals, and he has a lack of impact when he's on the left. And I think he would start for us. But then, obviously, we know when he's on the bench, he has great impact off the bench.
He does, yeah.
But you don't really want to have someone in your FPL team, especially a forward, who's they might come off the bench and have a great impact.
Yeah. Also, he is the same price as Igor Thiago, and I feel like for those prices, Igor Thiago is a much better option. Yeah.
And also last season, Wissa was so good down the middle. But obviously with Thiago in, he's probably not going to play down the middle. So unless it's in a front two. But I would probably say avoid Wissa. Not that he's a bad player, I just think there's better options.
And also, if we're playing a front two, it's probably going to be Thiago and Mbeumo.
Yeah.
Which would be exciting to see.
Yeah. So there's no doubt Wissa has talent and could get points, but I think there's better options.
Thank you for watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and
feel free to watch our next video, which should come out a day or two after this, and we're going to be revealing our first FPL teams. This isn't going to be our final team, but our first draft. Thank you for watching.